The sun was high over a quiet Nigerian village, and the dusty paths were empty except for a young man whose heart had been broken one too many times. Chike believed that love was a lie, a dream meant for everyone else but him. But then, something, or someone, appeared out of nowhere, and in a single moment, everything he thought he knew about life and happiness began to change. What happened next would shock him, and it might just shock you too. Stay with me, because in just a few minutes, you'll see how it all began, and why one unexpected encounter would change Chike's life forever. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a single twist in this unbelievable Nigerian tale. Chike was a young man from a small town in Nigeria, a place where the sun always seemed to shine warmly on red earth paths and children played barefoot in the streets. But inside his heart, Chike felt nothing but sadness. He had once believed in love, just like everyone else around him. He thought that one day he would find someone who would make his life bright and full of joy. But that hope had been broken, shattered by people he had trusted and loved deeply. Every relationship he tried ended in disappointment. Some girls he loved left him for other boys, some only pretended to care for him, and some argued with him until he felt he had no choice but to give up. Chike remembered the nights he cried silently under his mosquito net, wishing he could stop feeling hurt. He remembered the mornings he walked alone to the market, seeing couples holding hands and feeling a sharp pain in his chest. Each heartbreak added a stone to the heavy bag he carried in his heart. Because of all this, Chike believed that true love did not exist. He thought love was just a story that adults told children to make them dream, a trick that made people hope for something that would never come. He avoided meeting new people, avoided getting close, and avoided opening his heart. He spent his days quietly, sometimes helping his parents in the farm, sometimes walking to the local shop, but always with a shadow in his eyes, a sadness that everyone could feel when they looked at him. Even his friends tried to cheer him up, telling him stories about love and happy endings, but Chike would only shake his head and smile faintly. He would say, "Love is not real. I have seen it, I have tried it, and it only brings pain." Deep inside, though, there was a small hidden part of him that still wanted to believe, but he refused to let it grow. That little hope stayed buried, covered by the heavy stones of disappointment. Chike's life became a quiet routine. He no longer noticed the beauty of flowers in the market, the laughter of children running by, or the songs of birds in the morning. He only saw people loving each other while he remained on the outside, thinking that perhaps love was a game he was never meant to play. He had given up, and in his mind there was no coming back. But little did Chike know that very soon something unexpected would happen, something that would challenge everything he had believed about love, life, and happiness. And it all started on a day that seemed like any other, when the sun was bright and the wind gently whispered through the trees, carrying with it a change that Chike would never forget. It was a sunny morning in Chike's small town, the kind of morning when the air smells fresh after a light rain and the birds sing loudly as if they know secrets that nobody else does. Chike walked slowly toward the market to buy some food for his family. He carried a small basket in his hand, thinking about nothing in particular, just moving through his quiet, lonely life as usual. He did not expect anything to happen that day because he had already decided that nothing good ever came to him. As he turned a corner near the busy part of the market, he almost bumped into a girl. She was carrying a small bag of yams and balancing it carefully in her arms. She had dark, shiny hair braided neatly, and her eyes shone brightly, almost as if they could see straight into people's hearts. When she noticed Chike, she smiled politely, and for a moment, Chike froze. Her smile was different from anything he had seen before. It was warm, gentle, and full of kindness, and it made something inside him stir, something he thought had been dead for a long time. "Sorry," the girl said softly, stepping back so their baskets would not collide. "I didn't see you there." Chike managed to nod, feeling his cheeks grow hot. It's okay," he stammered. He had never been this nervous around a stranger before. Normally he would not care, or he would brush someone off. But there was something about this girl that made him stop and really notice her. "My name is Adaeze," she said, tilting her head slightly with that gentle smile still on her face. "And you are?" "Chike," he said, surprised at how his voice sounded normal and calm, even though inside his heart was beating fast. They walked together for a few steps, talking about small things, the weather, the market, and the fresh fruits for sale. Adaeze laughed easily, and Chike could not help but feel lighter, as if some of the heavy stones in his heart had shifted slightly. He realized he had not felt this calm or happy in a long time. He was amazed that one small meeting could make him forget, even for a moment, all the pain he had carried for years. By the time they reached the yam cellar, Chike noticed that he was smiling without realizing it. Adaeze noticed too, and she smiled back. It was a simple, ordinary moment, but something magical had started between them. Neither of them knew it yet, but this meeting was the beginning of something that would change Chike's life completely. As they said goodbye and went their separate ways that morning, Chike could not stop thinking about Adaeze. Her face, her laugh, her kindness. It all stayed with him, lingering like the smell of fresh bread at the market. For the first time in years, Chike felt a small flicker of hope, a tiny spark that whispered softly in his heart, telling him that maybe, just maybe, love could exist. And little did he know, this unexpected meeting was only the first step of a journey that would bring both happiness and heartbreak. A journey that would teach him lessons about life and love that he had never imagined. After that morning at the market, Chike could not stop thinking about Adaeze. Her face kept appearing in his mind, and every time he remembered her smile, his heart felt a little lighter, a little warmer. He tried to act normal when he met his friends, but they noticed a small change in him. Even though he would never admit it, something had started growing inside him, something he had buried for a long time. Hope. A few days later, Chike ran into Adaeze again. This time it was at the village well, where people came to fetch water and share small stories. Adaeze was filling her jerry can, humming softly to herself. When she saw Chike, she waved and called out, "Chike, over here." Chike walked over, feeling nervous yet happy to see her. They talked about simple things, like the weather and which crops were ready in the farms nearby. But even in these small talks, Chike felt a connection he had never felt with anyone else. Days turned into weeks, and slowly Chike and Adaeze began spending more time together. They would walk through the village paths, share small jokes, and sometimes sit under the big mango tree at the center of the village, talking about their dreams. Adaeze would tell Chike about her plans for the future, and Chike, for the first time in years, found himself opening up about his fears, his disappointments, and even the sadness he had carried in his heart for so long. Adaeze listened carefully, never judging, always patient. She would nod, smile, and sometimes laugh lightly at his clumsy attempts to hide his pain. Slowly, Chike realized that being with her made him feel safe. He could laugh again, dream again, and maybe even hope for something more. It was strange and new for him, because for so long he had thought that happiness and love were not meant for people like him. One evening, while walking home from the market together, Chike noticed how Adaeze's eyes sparkled in the golden sunlight, and he felt a strange warmth in his chest. He wanted to tell her how much she had changed his life, but the words would not come out. Instead, he smiled quietly, and Adaeze smiled back, as if she understood everything without a single word. It was in these moments, simple and ordinary to anyone else, that Chike started to believe again. He began to think that maybe love was not just a story adults told, maybe it was real after all. He did not say it out loud because he was still scared of being hurt. But inside, a tiny seed had been planted, a seed of trust, a seed of hope, and a seed of love that would grow stronger with each day. By the end of this segment, Chike and Adaeze had become more than friends. They were companions, sharing life's small joys and pains, slowly learning to trust each other, slowly learning that life could be brighter than they had ever imagined. And even though Chike did not yet know the challenges that would come, he felt ready to face them, because with Adaeze by his side, he finally began to understand what it meant to care for someone deeply. As the days passed, Chike and Adaeze grew closer. Their meetings were no longer just casual encounters at the market or the village well. They began to seek each other's company, finding any reason to spend time together. Sometimes they walked along the dusty village roads, laughing at the simplest jokes. Other times they sat quietly by the river, watching the water ripple and talking about dreams they had kept hidden from everyone else. Every moment they shared seemed to fill the empty spaces in Chike's heart, and slowly he felt alive again. Chike began noticing small things about Adaeze that made her even more special in his eyes. The way she carefully arranged the yams in her basket, the gentle way she helped children at the market, and the kindness in her eyes whenever she looked at him. All of it made him feel warmth he had never known. He realized that Adaeze did not just bring happiness into his life, she made him a better person. He wanted to laugh more, to care more, and even to dream bigger. Adaeze too began to trust Chike in ways she had never trusted anyone else. She would share her fears, her joys, and her secret wishes with him. Chike listened with patience, understanding, and a quiet strength that made her feel safe. Together, they built a world where the sadness and disappointments of the past did not exist. A small world where laughter, trust, and care were the only rules. One afternoon, under the shade of a large mango tree, Chike finally felt the courage to speak from his heart. "Adaeze," he said softly, looking into her eyes, I feel something I haven't felt in a long time. You make me feel happy again. You make me believe that love might be real." Adaeze smiled, her eyes sparkling like sunlight dancing on water. "Chike, I feel the same. Being with you, it feels like home, like I finally found where I belong." From that day, their friendship quietly blossomed into love. They spent hours together, sharing small adventures, helping farmers carry their harvest, playing with children in the village square, and sometimes just sitting silently, enjoying each other's presence. Every smile, every laugh, every small gesture deepened the bond between them. Chike, who had once believed that love was only a story, now felt it in every heartbeat. He had learned to care again, to hope again, and to dream that life could be filled with joy. Adaeze too felt the magic of their connection, and together they discovered a love that was gentle, patient, and full of warmth. And just when it seemed that their lives could not be brighter, something unexpected happened. Something that would test their bond and change everything they had built together. But for now, Chike and Adaeze held onto each other, savoring every moment of happiness, unaware of the challenge that was waiting just around the corner. Just when Chike and Adaeze were enjoying the happiness they had longed for, life decided to test them in a way they never expected. One afternoon, as Chike walked toward Adaeze's house, he noticed a crowd gathered near the village square. Voices were raised, and people were whispering anxiously. His heart began to race as he pushed through the crowd, hoping nothing bad had happened. He finally saw Adaeze standing at the center, her face pale and her hands trembling. She was holding a letter tightly, and tears were running down her cheeks. Chike's chest tightened, and he ran to her side. "Adaeze, what's wrong?" he asked, his voice full of fear. Adaeze looked at him, her eyes wide with worry and confusion. It's from my family," she whispered. "They say I cannot see you anymore. They say it's not proper for us to be together." Chike felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath his feet. He had never imagined that something like this could happen to them. All the happiness they had worked so hard to find now felt fragile, like a delicate vase on the edge of a table. He grabbed her hand gently. "Why? Why would they do this?" he asked, trying to stay calm, but inside a storm of anger and sadness was building. Adaeze shook her head. "They believe our families are too different. They say we don't belong together. I don't understand. I only know I care about you, Chike. I don't want to lose you." The villagers watched silently, sensing the tension and fear in the young lovers. Chike knew that fighting Adaeze's family would not be easy. Their objections were strong, and the rules of tradition in the village were strict. Yet, as he looked into Adaeze's tearful eyes, he felt a surge of determination. He would not let this obstacle destroy what they had. Not without trying everything he could. That evening, Chike walked home slowly, thinking about all the moments he had shared with Adaeze. The laughter, the quiet talks, the joy that had filled the empty spaces in his heart. Could all of that vanish just because of family rules and village expectations? He did not want to believe it. Deep down, he knew that love was worth fighting for, even if it meant facing anger, rejection, or the scorn of people who did not understand their hearts. And so a new chapter began in their story, not one of happiness and laughter, but one of struggle and hope. Chike and Adaeze had to find a way to protect what they had, to prove that their love was real and stronger than fear. But as the sun set that evening, casting long shadows over the village, both of them knew that the road ahead would be difficult, filled with challenges they could never have imagined. The happiness they had found now hung in the balance, and the question remained: would their love survive, or would the pressure of the world around them break the bond they had worked so hard to build? The days after Adaeze's family objection were some of the hardest Chike had ever faced. Every morning he woke up thinking of her, worrying about whether their love could survive the storm that had suddenly entered their lives. Adaeze, too, felt the weight of the problem pressing down on her. She wanted to be with Chike, but the fear of disappointing her parents made her anxious and unsure. Both of them felt trapped between their hearts and the world around them, unsure of which path to take. Despite the fear and sadness, Chike refused to give up. He knew that love was more than just laughter and quiet talks under the mango tree. It was courage, patience, and determination. He visited Adaeze whenever he could, even if it was just to exchange secret smiles or quiet words of comfort. "We will find a way," he whispered one evening, holding her hand under the fading light of the sun. "I will not let this take you from me." Adaeze nodded, her eyes filled with tears but also with trust. She believed in him, and that belief gave her strength. Together they made small plans, talking about ways to show their families that their love was real, pure, and strong. They asked for advice from trusted elders and friends who had faced similar challenges. Some told them to be patient, some encouraged them to speak honestly to the families, and some simply reminded them to never lose hope. There were moments when fear threatened to win. Chike would feel frustrated when news of family meetings reached him, or when villagers whispered disapprovingly about them. Adaeze would sometimes cry quietly at night, wondering if love alone was enough to overcome the pressures around them, but each time they found hope in each other's presence. A smile, a hand held tightly, a shared laugh, these small gestures reminded them why they were fighting. Slowly, the impossible began to feel a little more possible. Chike's determination and Adaeze's courage started to change the way others saw them. Their friends supported them, offering words of encouragement. Even some family members who had been unsure began to notice the sincerity and depth of their love. It was not easy, far from it, but every day, Chike and Adaeze learned that love was not just about happiness. It was also about perseverance, patience, and trust. By the time this chapter of struggle had passed, Chike and Adaeze felt stronger than ever. Their bond had survived whispers, objections, and doubts. They had learned that love required effort, and that sometimes the greatest joy comes not from a life without challenges, but from facing those challenges together. And though the future was still uncertain, they now held on to hope like a lifeline, knowing that as long as they believed in each other, they could face whatever came next. Little did they know, however, that the final test of their love, the moment that would reveal its true strength, was yet to come. The challenge that had weighed on Chike and Adaeze's hearts for weeks finally reached its turning point. One afternoon, they decided to speak honestly to Adaeze's parents together. Chike's hands were sweaty and his heart pounded like a drum, but he held his head high because he knew that love was worth courage. Adaeze stood beside him, her small hand gripping his tightly, giving him the strength he needed. "We love each other," Chike said firmly, his voice steady despite the nervousness in his chest. "We have faced challenges, and we have proven that our love is real. Please understand that separating us would only bring pain to both of us." Adaeze's parents looked at each other silently. There was tension in the room, but slowly they saw the truth in the young couple's eyes. They saw sincerity, patience, and a love that had grown stronger even under pressure. After what felt like an eternity, Adaeze's mother spoke softly, "If your hearts are truly joined, and you are willing to face life together, then we will trust your love." Relief and joy flooded Chike and Adaeze. Tears streamed down their faces as they embraced, feeling the weight of fear and doubt lift from their shoulders. In that moment, they realized that love was not just about happiness. It was about courage, trust, and standing together even when the world seems against you. From that day on, life in the village felt brighter for them. They continued to laugh, to dream, and to share quiet moments under the mango tree. But now, there was also a new understanding in their hearts. Love is not easy, and it is not always free from obstacles. But when it is real, it is worth every struggle. Chike, who once believed that true love did not exist, now carried a heart full of hope, joy, and belief. He had learned that even the deepest wounds can heal, that trust can grow stronger with patience, and that the heart is capable of loving more than it ever imagined. Adaeze, too, had learned that courage and faith in love can overcome fear and doubt. As they walked hand in hand through the village, the sun setting behind the red earth roads, they smiled at each other, knowing that whatever challenges the future held, they would face them together. And so Chike and Adaeze's story became a testament to the power of love, hope, and resilience. A story whispered in the winds of the village for years to come. The lesson was clear. True love is not just found, it is nurtured, fought for, and cherished. And when two hearts are willing to stand together, even the darkest clouds cannot dim the light they create. And so Chike and Adaeze's journey taught us something important. Love is not always easy, and happiness is not always simple, but when two hearts are willing to stand together through every challenge, even the heaviest storms can be weathered. Their story reminds us that courage, patience, and trust can turn heartbreak into hope, and doubt into a bond that lasts. If this tale moved you, remember to hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you won't miss the next story that will take you even deeper into the heart of our Nigerian tales. Life is full of surprises, and the next one could be just around the corner.